If your female Doberman has been spayed, there's a good chance that she has or will develop a condition where she begins to leak urine. Not only does urinary incontinence cause a lot of extra work for owners, but it can be distressing in a breed that's inclined to be so fastidious, and it can lead to other health complications. Urinary incontinence is rare in intact females, that would be females that are not spayed, of any breed, but occurs in about 20% of spayed females. Dobermans, however, are frequently noted in studies as being one of the breeds most prone to spay incontinence at about 30%. I recently posed the question of spay incontinence to fellow Doberman owners on Facebook, and out of over 300 comments, the rate was just over 40%. In this video, we'll explore what are believed to be the primary causes of spay incontinence, some of the holistic and pharmaceutical treatments, and various management options. So let's get started. To understand female Doberman incontinence, we need to discuss the anatomy of the urinary system. This consists of the kidneys that produce urine, the bladder that stores the urine, the sphincter muscle that controls the release of urine through the ureter, and a network of supporting blood vessels and nerves. In a female dog, the ovaries produce hormones like estrogen that help maintain the tone and the strength of the bladder and urethral muscles, including the very important ureter sphincter. When spayed, the ovaries and the uterus are removed. Deprived now of these hormones, the ureter sphincter muscle can weaken and relax. The spay surgery can also cause a relaxing of the pelvic girdle that holds all the organs in place in the abdomen. The net result is that urine can leak out. Despite the age that a spay is performed, spay incontinence can occur just weeks after surgery, but most often occurs 1 to 3 years afterwards. Their owner will start noticing suddenly wet spots where the dog has been laying. It might be a small superficial spot or a big pool that's potentially penetrated down into multiple layers of bedding. This is because spay incontinence most often occurs when the dog is resting or sleeping, although it can occur when the dog is awake and walking around. If you notice that your spayed Doberman does start leaking urine, the first thing you want to do is take her to your veterinarian. They're going to run a urinalysis to rule out a urinary tract infection and possibly also do blood work to check on liver and kidney functions. If these tests come back clear, then a diagnosis of spay incontinence is usually made. So when you're treating Doberman spay incontinence, you have basically two options of estrogens and non-estrogens. Most typically, your veterinarian will start with a non-estrogen. Proin is the most popular one, and it acts upon the receptors that control the constriction of sphincter muscles. It is short-acting, so it is given twice a day. Now, with long-term use, it can lose its effectiveness, at which time your veterinarian may add something like Incurine to the Proin, which has a synergistic effect, or just swap you to an estrogen altogether. As far as the estrogens go, you have Incurine, which is a short-acting estrogen, and it is given once a day. You can also have it compounded at a compounding pharmacy, which will probably make it much more affordable. And by compounding, they can add flavors and things like that to make it more palatable. Then your next step up is DES. And I'm not even going to attempt to say that name, but it is also compounded. It is a stronger and longer lasting estrogen. Therefore, you only give it twice a week. For owners that prefer to try a more natural treatment, they may want to try one of the following. Now, I haven't tried these methods myself, but I have had them recommended repeatedly to me by other Doberman owners that have successfully used them. The first product is VetriScience VetriBladder, and if you recall the role that estrogen plays in spay incontinence, then this product contains phytoestrogens of soy protein extract and red clover flower. There's homeopathic options, including Homeopet Leaks No More. A pelvic adjustment by a veterinary chiropractor can help boost a lax pelvic girdle, as well as improve the nerve sensation of the urinary tract. Acupuncture can also be used to stimulate specific points that might improve bladder control and strengthen the urinary muscles. Now, despite natural or even pharmaceutical treatment, Sometimes your girl may still have episodes of occasional incontinence, or with advanced aging of the body, spay incontinence may develop into more of an age-related incontinence, which doesn't respond as well to the treatments we've looked at so far. In either case, there's several ways to help manage the situation to make life better for both of you. Let's talk about water. Your knee-jerk reaction to seeing incontinence from your Doberman may be to limit her access to water. But please never restrict access to water in an attempt to control incontinence. While there may be less urine to drip, limiting water does nothing to address the root cause and can actually do far more damage. A couple of years ago, I had one of my previous show clients that had a terminal illness, and in his last weeks, he asked me to take his 2 female Dobermans and find new homes for them. The older girl was about 5 years old and had some incontinence. The owner had sadly dealt with the situation by restricting her water access. After I placed her in a new home, routine blood work showed that she had really advanced kidney damage as a result of his limiting her water. With vet care, love, and a lot of IV fluid support, she lived 10 more months before her kidneys finally gave up altogether. There's other ways to manage incontinence besides limiting water. This video is of my 7-year-old girl, Valen, who actually is behind me right now sleeping, so you may hear her snoring now and again. But her spay incontinence is generally well controlled on medication. However, when she's outside playing during the summertime and running and gets really hot, she'll tank up on water. If I don't take that into consideration when I bring her back inside the house for a rest, then in about an hour, she unknowingly starts to leak. Once she's processed and urinated out all that extra water, she'll go back to being clean and dry. The management in this case is not for me to limit her water intake, but rather to let her out about 45 minutes after she had come back inside, and then again in about another 45 minutes so that she can pee out all of that excess water that she's taken in. If you feed your Doberman dry food, you're going to find that within like an hour, they're going to drink a lot of water. They've got to in order to properly digest that kibble. But if you wet and soak their food for even just a minute beforehand, you're going to find that overall they'll take in less water. I tell my clients to think of it this way. If you ate a bowl of dry cereal, it's not going to be long before you start feeling really dehydrated and just will be guzzling water. But if you first put just a few ounces of milk on your cereal, you're likely not going to feel the need for any water at all. If you feed an evening meal to your Doberman, try moving it up a couple of hours earlier so that the water that your dog does intake to digest the meal has plenty of time to flush through the body before bedtime. And a last note about food. Being overweight puts increased pressure on the bladder, so keep your Doberman at a healthy lean weight. If your Doberman leaks on their dog bed, it's not a big deal to wash the cover. The problem is that the urine soaks into the foam or the stuffing bedding underneath. Even if you take the inner bed out to air in the sun, it can still take a couple of days to dry it out, and you can't do anything about that embedded odor. I solved this problem by enclosing the bedding in a zippered, waterproof rib or twin mattress protector. If the protector is a little big, just fold it over when you put the bed cover back on. Now, if there is an accident, once I remove the cover to wash, I can easily wipe off the mattress protector. If your Doberman sleeps in bed with you, then a waterproof mattress pad is a must. Now, if you're cringing just thinking about those old plastic mattress pads of the past that crinkled loudly with every move, you're going to be happy to know that they've come a long way. These days, you can get fitted waterproof mattress pads that are soft, cushioned, and most importantly, quiet. With these protectors, if your Doberman does have the rare instance of an overnight incontinence, you're still going to need to wash your bed linens, but the urine is not going to make it into your mattress. Now, if your Doberman's incontinence is a bit more commonplace, then I would think about adding a washable incontinence bed pad on top of your bed linens. You can also use these pads on your furniture, in your car, or in a crate. I will say that my personal experience with disposable bed pads has not been good, so I just don't even recommend them. Now, if none of these tips are doing the trick, Then there's always wearables. I like to use these always pads. They're not pads for periods, they're actually pads for incontinence. You can see they come in various absorbencies. I have a 3 here, which just says it's light, up to a 6. Of course, they have ones that are in between. I use the one that I think is going to be most applicable for that particular female and for the particular situation. So, like, especially the 6s I'll use overnight, because I know it's going to be like 6-8 hours. You can get these female panties. This is where the legs go through. This is where the tail goes. And they just Velcro over the back. So in this case, what I would do is open it up, and there's where the tail goes. Just going to lay it down. And I will get a pad. And this is a really big pad for overnight. I will go all the way up to that tail. Pull down. So you see it doesn't interfere with the hole for the tail. These are nice. I'll give you a link to those. Another option are commercially made diapers. They also have a hole for the tail. Same basic construction, but this is a much heavier material. They actually have pads that are kind of built in, and of course whenever you wash it, then it's when it's cleaned. I'm not so keen on having that much urine in my washing machine, so I don't like these for this reason. Also, they're not as comfortable. They can't be as comfortable, as thick and heavy as they are. If you find that you've got your Doberman in a diaper or panty on a more regular basis, then you want to make sure to watch for signs of urine scald, which present as a red rash. This area is a traumatized skin, and it's prone to secondary infections from bacteria and yeast. You can help prevent urine scald by wiping your girl's belly and around the vulva with natural baby wipes. Then apply a thin layer of a protective barrier cream to the same area. As the name implies, this cream will create a barrier between any leaked urine and the skin. The first time you put diapers or panties on your girl, be sure to immediately tell her how beautiful she looks and just make a big to-do over her. That way, rather than acting like you've done something just horrid to her and that she can't possibly move, she's going to be strutting around like a little girl in her new Easter dress. Besides watching for urine scald, the biggest health concern for female Dobermans with Spay Incontinence is that they are at increased risk to get urinary tract infections. You've got this warm body part with folds and hairs that just hold on to the moisture from the leaking. And then when they lay down, they've got dirt and germs that just glom onto that moisture. The result is a great breeding ground for infection. If you notice that your girl's urine starts smelling really strong, that she's squatting frequently and straining to urinate, or that her urine is tinged with blood, then you're going to need to take her and a urine sample into your vet for a check. To collect a urine sample from a female Doberman, get a large kitchen spoon, the type that you use to stir a pot, but not a ladle because those are much deeper, and something to put the sample into. This can be a small jar, a Tupperware container, or even a recycled prescription bottle like I'm going to be using in this video. Make sure that the spoon and the sample container are clean and dry. The ideal time to get a urine sample is first thing in the morning when the urine is most concentrated from sitting in the bladder overnight. Take your girl out on lead, along with your spoon and the open container. Let her see and smell the spoon so that when you later approach her with it, she's not going to be prone to be curious and turn and see what it is. she begins to urinate, calmly walk up to her and catch some of her urine midstream. Pour it into your container and cap it. If it's going to be more than an hour before you can get the sample to your veterinarian, then place it in your refrigerator. Keep the refrigerated sample cool when you head to the vet clinic. Though it's common in female Dobermans, spay incontinence can be managed. To assure the best quality of life for your girl and the least amount of stress for yourself, talk to your vet about natural and pharmaceutical treatments, and then fill in any gaps as necessary with the tricks and tools I've mentioned. And if you want to learn how to save money on your Doberman's prescriptions, then check out this video next.
Take a bow. Good job.